This week on the Venator update, we're continuing to work on the massive engines for the UCS Venator. Hey guys, welcome back to week 73 of Boy My Custom Venator. I know the Venator looks like an absolute mess, but you guys gotta understand the amount of stuff I have to take apart and the amount of parts I need to find and go through to find parts for these engines is absolutely insane. This is by far one of the hardest things I've had to do on this Venator, but we still have all this other stuff we need intact. Like, we still have the panels, we still have the side pieces, we have all the other stuff intact. It's just the fact of finding all the parts that I need for the engine. So that's why the Venator looks like a mess. Also, if you see my hands looking very bloody this update, well, that's because I'm the clone trooper that punched this battle droid. The reason behind that is because my hands get really dry in the winter, so they look like that. So if you guys see my hands like very bloody this week, you know, it's just something I deal with. It's not a big deal. I just want to let you guys know because I don't want you guys to be worried about my hands or anything like that. I just put some cream on and then they're all good the next day. Anyways, let's get this update without further ado. But first, please be sure to smash that like and subscribe button down below. All your support does help out since I'm not sponsored by the Lego company and this is a very expensive project. But without further ado, let's get into this Venator project. To start off this week on the Venator project, we got a bunch of parts all over the place. It's an absolute mess. However, let's take a look at the engines. Okay, so this is what we currently have right now. We have a support beam that goes into here and it hangs onto this. Now this is only one support that connects to the engine, which is not going to be enough for something that's going to be like this long. That's going to be humongous. So this is something that I think we're going to have to add more supports to. But the question is, how are we going to do that with only one Technic hole within the whole structure, since this is a brick-built structure instead of a Technic structure? So my proposal is that we use inverted bricks right here and we use the connections from these bricks to connect to actual bricks right here and have these run further into the Venator. I think that would be a good idea, especially for getting more in the ways of support from these massive engines. However, I don't know how well that's going to work considering there's a big beam right here. So we'll just have to wait and see how this comes out. Hopefully it works out for the best, but this is a really hard thing to do, especially with only one connection point available for this part of the Venator. And I can't not use this part because this holds everything else together, so it has to be this part. Actually, on the Apollo space shuttle alone, they use a part that doesn't even have a hole. They use two of these curves and they basically put it together. So this is the best solution I've been able to think of so far for how we're going to support these engines, but hopefully that works out. So right now we're going to build this wall and then hopefully we'll have a solution to how we're going to do this. Okay, so we made some progress on the Venator. We made this back end extended all the way down. We got 3 rows of basically Technic pins lined up and ready for engines, and it's really strong. I really gotta admit that is like, it's super strong. Like, it's also reinforced this whole side as well so it doesn't sag, but this is like such a strong feature that I've been able to incorporate, which I'm very happy about. However, it's very expensive because Technic beams are not cheap. But we do have a huge problem though, which I haven't really showed off yet. So the problem is, if you look close right there, you can see this piece doesn't quite line up with this piece, and it also doesn't line up with the brick if I put it underneath there. It's very close to it, but it doesn't do it exactly. And that's a huge problem because I was planning on having these long beams extend through the Venator to basically make a stronger connection with it instead of just having one central focal point, which is this Technic beam right here. So without having the rest of the supports that I was going to have for the top and the bottom, I'm not sure how I'm going to make this work. Maybe there's a way I can manipulate the bricks in the ways of heights to try and make this work, but it's not looking good right now for that method at least. So that could cause a whole bunch of problems because without enough support, these things will just sag and fall off. So I'm going to get back to working on this and trying to see if I can find a solution right now. Okay, so I thought of a technique that finally works. It's not very strong, but it does work. So this is what we came up with. This is basically a brick that has a connection on the side that we connected it to, and then we have one of these bricks that like shifts it off a little bit, and that matches the height perfectly for this thing that I'm working on. Now, there isn't any connection behind here that I was able to make, which really is quite unfortunate because, you know, it would be good to have a point of connection on the bottom and top. However, I can't seem to figure out any brick technique that would really work for that. So I think I'm just going to leave it with like something underneath, like a tile and a 2x4 or something like that, which is what I'm probably going to end up doing for the bottom of it. But at least we got something to connect to the top section for that support because we desperately needed that. However, there is always, yes, a problem with this technique. So you see, so once I basically stack these up, you know, put on the nice shell that this thing has, the one problem I'm going to have is trying to reconnect the brick that is right here with this massive contraption that I have going on over here, because it's going to be offset by like at least a half stud of level, which is going to be very difficult to try to figure out how I'm going to reconnect these studs with this stud because of the different stud heights that it's going to be having on there, which is, yeah, so that is something I'm definitely going to have to work on, but I'll give you a little progress update when I build this out a little bit, because that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, this looks amazing. I feel so happy with this. This just feels so big on the Venator. It's like a huge engine that's just extruding from the back of it, and it's super strong too, and I haven't even supported the back end of that yet, which is great. I mean, like, it just is so strong. Like, seeing all these tiles on here lined up perfectly, I am truly happy with this design. However, we're going to be adding more detailing, like some more greebling to the sides of this eventually, obviously, but I just wanted to put all these tiles on to see what kind of a massing we're going to get when this thing is complete. However, I think it's time we work on the next section of it right now, because we've only really built this section of it, and we do need to figure out how we're going to connect this brick right here to this brick, because, you know, the difference in stud heights. However, that's an issue for another day. Right now, I just want to work on building out this engine to extend it, because I really want to see how this thing is going to come out. So we've thought of this new technique right here, which I think works really good. It's basically a bigger version of this piece right here. So I think this works great. I basically used a 1x3 brick and a 1x4 brick. I was thinking about using this, but it didn't work as well because the angle is not as steep, surprisingly, even though I thought they were the same piece. Apparently they're not, so that's interesting. But this works great for that one singular row that's supposed to be bigger on the outside of the Venator. Now, the only problem with this is I feel like I need to shrink this section of it, like this little block. I need to shrink it down, which is gonna be super hard to do, and I don't know if I could do it. And also, it may weaken the support of this thing that we have going all the way through there because we make it smaller, but it would be more accurate. And the only reason why I want to change this potentially is because right after this, we're going to have another row of the exact same thing, just like it, going all the way down here until we are complete with the back end. And then we have this big extrusion out, and then we have the big, massive, glowy engines on the back right here. And I don't feel like I want this to be the same diameter as this diameter, because I feel like it's supposed to be more rigid than that in a sense, if you guys know what I mean. So I'm not sure what I want to do with this yet. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to shrink this because of, you know, support for this structure, but I would really like to. But unfortunately, we don't have these pieces in the right colors. We have these in the right colors, but not these. So we're going to have to order those and place a lot of orders because we have a lot of stuff planned for this Venator. Okay, so I made some small progress. We basically created a new one of these engines and we made it smaller. However, the problem is I don't know if this amount is going to be enough to support the whole massive engine, because if we cut it off here, then we're losing all this top support, and I don't want to do that. But if we leave it like this, we have all this top support. So we'll see how that plays out in the future when we're, you know, blowing the whole thing out, which is what we're working towards right now. But we'll see how that plays out in the ways of strength and support. But right now, it's not looking too great, so we may just have to leave it as one whole big mass right here and then not have it shrink in like on the reference image I was showing earlier. However, we did get something else accomplished, which is getting this brick to line up with this brick. We tried a bunch of techniques, and I think we finally found something that lines up perfectly. So I'm very happy about that we were able to get these bricks right here to line up with the actual interior of the Venator. So another great success over there this week on the Venator update. Alright, with that said, that's wrap up for this week on the Venator update. Sorry I didn't get as much done as I wanted to. This week I got a lot of stuff going on. I got 2 big papers to do and 2 big tests, so I don't have a bunch of time to commit to this Venator. this week on the updates. But next week, hopefully we'll have a lot of progress for you guys. Hopefully we'll have at least one engine down next week for the next Venator update. If you don't want to miss that, make sure to smash that subscribe button because it'll give you notifications when, you know, the next update comes out, and then you guys can see the next engine completed, because these engines are absolutely insane. I'm really happy with how they're coming out. But with that said, make sure to smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out and goodbye.